So here's the TV mount I bought. So I have a 75 inch that's 80 pounds, and this mount holds it beautifully. It's 80 pounds. It sits out about 2 feet from the wall and very sturdy. 4 lag bolts going in. Make sure you hit dead center your studs. But couldn't be happier. I'll actually put a link below to this stand. It's impressed me enough that I'll share it actually. Nice thing about having the one that articulates out versus just hanging is my 16-inch studs. When I moved it as far over as I could, I'm still 4 inches off of center. So what I do, it works perfect, is I can swing this over and have it so that I'm not flush to the wall. It goes pretty tight if you can line it up perfect. But I am out just a bit, but then I can, by doing that, I can adjust it over that 4 inches so I can still center in the room. It's just maybe another 4 or 5 inches off the wall. And yeah, the nice thing about this one is comes with a tool, kind of dorky, but good enough for what you need if you want to adjust the tilt. Other ones just have a screw, where I don't think with a Phillips screw head you're gonna get it tight enough to be happy. So at least here, nut driver style, but you can actually tighten it up, especially for the heavier TVs, to hold it at a bit of an angle. This one, my TV's 80, and to overkill it just to make sure, this one's good for, I think it's 160 or 165 pounds. So I doubled it for what I needed just to make sure. So, and I would recommend that too, because the last thing you want is, because of one little cheap hinge, that your TV comes down. So, nope, perfect. As for mounting it, there's a million videos for that, so you guys can look that up. But just take your time and make sure you get center of the studs. One thing I did, I don't know if you can see it here, you can. I took like a little finishing nail. Find where your stud is, and then just put a finishing nail in. Oh, that one hit wood, that one hit wood, that one didn't, kind of thing, right? And you can find exactly where the edge of that stud is to make sure that your leg bolt goes dead center. You want to make sure that if you're going to put that kind of weight on it, because obviously as it's sticking out, the force downward is just multiplying. So that's the only thing. Make sure you get middle of your stud. Okay, now that this is up, my next thing is I want to hide all my cables. So I'm going to put 2 outlets here, one receptacle and one for data. So the receptacle, I got to bring power up. The data one, I just have to do an opening and an opening down below where I put in an entertainment unit, and I'm building a floating one to put in here, so I'm going to line it up with that. But so that'll be the next thing, to make it just as clean as possible. So I'll show you bits and pieces of. Okay, so I marked out where I'm going to put the holes. I got a fish tape up from downstairs to run the cable down to bite some power from somewhere, probably the panel. The big thing is really take your time measuring. Know where you want to put your spots for power. So I'm going to do power here, and that's going to be data. So I'm going to run power up to here, and then from here I'm going to go up behind the TV and do another one. This will be the easy section. And then do another one here for data and put that one up. So for the data, I just bought some nice plates that go on and hide the cable pretty well. Yeah. So now to tie the wire on and pull. One thing, when you're cutting your wire, to put it on the fish tape, make it so you use your ground wire to put into the loop, and then cut your other wires back. It's staggered, so that way you're more tapered. Once you tape it up, it's a little bit more of a tapered cone versus just a square end. It'll help pull through tighter spots a little bit better. I got a 3/4 inch hole downstairs that I'm pulling through, so it won't be an issue, but just a habit, a little trick to make pulling through tight space. Okay, here we are downstairs. There's the hole I drilled up at an angle to get inside the wall upstairs. Pulled the fish tape down, got the wire down, run it across over the wall, and then reached up underneath to pull the wire down. There it is right there. And now I'm gonna tie into the convenience plug down here next to my panel. So I'll do that last. I'll do everything else upstairs first, and then the last thing will be tie that into power. There we go. Fortunately, I have T-bar downstairs, so it makes things a lot easier that. Okay, so we got cable coming up from downstairs. This one heads up to go behind the TV. And then that's where we're going to have our flush plate for our data. One thing, this is an exterior wall, so you have insulation and a vapor barrier. On this one, I cut too deep with the dry hole saw, so I'm going to have to put in a vapor barrier. The other ones, there's enough room, and I was careful enough to cut, I can keep the vapor barrier intact. So if you're in a cold weather climate, make sure that if you break that vapor barrier, you tape it up and go in front of it. I'm running my wires, both my data and this. I fished it up between the drywall and the vapor barrier, so not to puncture it. So make sure that vapor barrier stays intact. But, so there we go. So that's how we're looking now. I like to use masking tape so I can draw and scribble all over the wall and then just rip it all off after. And then that's where my studs are and where my entertainment unit's going to go eventually. So there we go. So I'll put all this together and show you what it looks like. Then I'll show you the entertainment center. Oh, with that, I like to use these when I'm using drywall and I'm open, so I'm in between the studs. I'm not sure what they are called now, but when we used to use them, they're called easy boxes. I think they got a different name to them now. But they're meant to go where you're not against a stud. So the top pushes down so it can slide in. And then once it's inside, that pushes up by screwing that down, which then locks that in place. Now when you screw this, it bites onto the drywall on the top and the bottom. Very handy little devices for when you want to go into just an open hole where intentionally I'm away from the stud. They're really good for afterthoughts like this. Anyway, so I'll put it all together and show you what it looks like. Okay, so got this receptacle wired in. I was about to push it in, and I thought I'd just make a quick note here. Inside, make sure you bond to the back, to the screw with your ground wires. And then what I did is put the two of them together and then pigtail the third piece over to ground. One way some people will do it is they'll take each of these ground wires and they'll run them down and put them beside each other underneath that, and with one of them coming out to bite this. Don't do that. It meets code, but it's not preferred. Here's why. Let's say the one coming from down below, so the wire feeding this plug, that ground, let's say you cut it off right there, you bite it onto the bottom, and the other one bites on, the one that continues on, that wire, that ground underneath here then goes to your receptacle. If for any reason this connection comes loose, just the wire coming up, or if it happens to break right here, then you have no more ground. Your bonding wire basically is dead from here on for the rest of your circuit. So by doing this, if something happens or it comes disconnected, yes, this box will no longer be bonded, but because they're together, it will still carry through up to the next one. Hopefully that makes sense. So always connect them together. The other thing is when you're connecting these, always make sure to use the screw heads. Don't use the push in the back, the pins. They're garbage on every receptacle, plug, whatever. Don't use them. Wrap it around. Make sure there's no insulation under the screw, so it's just the copper wire or aluminum if you're using that. And make sure it's 3/4 of the way around at least, and clockwise. So as you're tightening the screw, it tightens into it versus loosening the hook per se if you're counterclockwise. So just a couple of quick hints. So I'll button this up and keep going to the next one. Okay, so we're all done. Came out really nice. Nice clean look. Plates are level with each other. Only thing I noticed is that I only have one cable that's really long enough, HDMI wise. TV's out way further than it ever will be, so this one will work for now, but I want to have to order some longer ones, so that way I can actually pull the TV out and have that slack up top. Then it'll be just a matter of taking that slack and loosely fitting it to the bars, so that way you can go out or in without pulling on it or tugging on it. But other than that, came out really well. Now I just got to do the downstairs and actually get power to it. And then we should be done. Then it's just the figuring out and mounting of the entertainment unit that I built.